Today I want to take you on a journey around one of Mercator's most striking maps, his Septentrionalium Terrarum Descriptio from 1595. The name is quite a mouthful, but the Latin simply translates as descriptions of the northern lands. Now this is a particularly special map, and actually one of my favourites, as it was the very first standalone map dedicated to the Arctic. It's definitely a map of its time, full of cartographical inaccuracies and theories, but they are also blended with the latest discoveries from voyages of exploration. The map was published the year after Mercator's death, but we know he had been thinking about it for decades. An early version of this view over the North Pole appears on his famous 1569 world map as an inset in the bottom left. So let's dive right in and explore what I think are 5 of the most interesting details of this Arctic map. Probably the first thing you notice is the 4 large and mountainous continents around the North Pole, where in fact there should be frozen ocean. Now, although no contemporary explorers had reached this far north yet, this speculative geography did not come directly from Mercator's imagination. He instead relied on historical texts. One of these sources was about a Franciscan monk who had supposedly travelled this region nearly 2 centuries before. Mercator wrote about this monk's travel in a letter to his friend John Dee in 1577, and in the transcription of it we see, for example, the monk describing the mountain range going around the north like a wall. Later on, the monk came across a group of 23 people, not above 4 feet tall. Mercator noted this on the map too with the annotation, "Here live pygmies, at most 4 feet tall, who are like those called skraelings in Greenland." Skraeling, by the way, is an Old Norse word that was used to describe the peoples they encountered in North America and Greenland. On the map, we also see that the 4 countries are separated by large rivers. Mercator notes some aspects of these straits, such as their dimensions and how often they freeze. This one, with 5 mouths, he notes, flows so fast that it is never frozen. These rivers all flow directly to the North Pole, and our next item of interest, Rupes Nigra et Altissima, or the Black and Very High Cliff. To understand what this thing at the North Pole is, we can refer back to Mercator's letter, where he recounts the monk's description. In the midst of the 4 countries is a whirlpool, into which there empty these 4 indrawing seas which divide the north. And the water rushes round and descends into the earth just as if one were pouring it through a filter funnel. It is 4 degrees wide on every side of the pole, that is to say 8 degrees altogether, except that right under the pole there lies a bare rock in the midst of the sea. Its circumference is almost 33 French miles, and it is all of magnetic stone. Now this all sounds quite terrifying, chaotic, and all quite improbable, but it fits with contemporary thinking. Perhaps this funneling of water around the North Pole was influenced by reports of Salstrømmen in northern Norway, which is known for having one of the strongest tidal currents in the world, and creating mesmerizing whirlpools. The magnetic properties of this massive island are interesting too, and reflect how people were trying to explain why compasses point north. However, Mercator was at least aware that compasses weren't pointing directly to the North Pole, and so included another magnetic island nearer Siberia, and 2 possible locations for the magnetic pole, one with respect to a meridian through the Cape Verde Islands, and an alternative with respect to a meridian through the island of Corvo, or the Azores. Mercator was not just incorporating contemporary scientific thinking on this map, but also the latest discoveries being made by explorers. If we head now to Greenland, we see it bisected by a strait called Fretum Frobishers. Now, Frobisher was an Englishman who had made 3 voyages in search of the Northwest Passage during the 1570s. While Frobisher did claim to have found a strait that divided America and Asia, this was quickly disputed, leaving mapmakers with a quandary of where his discovery could actually fit. It seems cartographers assumed that the southern tip of Greenland to be the logical choice, and so this mistake would persist on maps for the next 200 years. The strait Frobisher had actually discovered is the deep bay in Baffin Island that bears his name today. Mercator incorporates the discovery of Davis Strait too by John Davis, who sailed up the west coast of Greenland in 1587, reaching a high latitude of 72 degrees 12 minutes north, where he named a 1,000-metre high mountain Sanderson's Hope after his sponsor. Davis also found Cumberland Sound, labelled here as E. Cumberland's Isles, and the furious overfall annotation further south refers to where Davis's ship Ellen had been driven by a gale into waters at the entrance to Hudson Bay. When this map was printed, North America was just a distant shoreline that few Westerners had visited, let alone ventured into its interior. The depiction of a great lake here, therefore, is of interest. The annotation translates as, "Here is a sea of sweet water, of which, according to the reports of the inhabitants of the Saguenay, the Canadians say that the limits are unknown." Here, sweet water refers to fresh water suitable for drinking, and the same annotation can be found on Mercator's 1569 world map too. It hints towards a knowledge of the Great Lakes, or maybe Hudson Bay, derived by word of mouth from the Native Americans. What is intriguing is that the island at its northern end bears an uncanny resemblance to Southampton Island in Hudson Bay, though this of course may be just a coincidence. This island would not be officially discovered by Europeans until 1613. Now, this map of the Arctic is filled with interesting place names, derived from biblical and ancient texts. But the last detail I want to examine with you is in northern Greenland, St. Thomas's Monastery. In the atlas where this was published, Mercator writes, "Only 2 habitations in the extreme north, namely in Greenland, are known to us, Alba and St. Thomas's Monastery." The frozen tundra of northeast Greenland seems an odd place to settle, even for a reclusive religious sect. But Mercator's source appears to come from another 14th century travelogue, that of Sir John Mandeville. The story is set in Tula, the furthest isle of the world inhabited with men. When the Christian king of this isle fell sick and was on his deathbed, St. Thomas of Canterbury appeared to him in a vision, instructing him to build a church dedicated to him. The king followed his instructions, and as soon as the first stone was laid, the king's illness lifted. Other contemporary narratives, such as the Zeno account of 1558, describe the church as hard by a hill which vomited fire like Vesuvius and Etna, going on to explain how springs of hot water allowed the monks to live comfortably here in the harsh conditions of this northerly latitude. That's all I have time for today. If you want to explore this map in more detail, I have made an interactive version in which I could describe more of the map's details and how it compares with our present-day maps of the Arctic. This online version is the second state of the map, published in 1623, so it includes some of the latest discoveries like Svalbard. I'll put the link in the description below if you'd like to check it out. And if you've enjoyed the video, please give us a like and follow, and I hope to catch you on the next one.